Peace. This is the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Raji. Today's show is being recorded live from the Mad River Valley in Vermont. Peace and respects to the Abenaki people, the first peoples of this land, the people that are still here. Much love and respects to them. I'm here at Knoll Farm. Thank you to Peter and Helen and any other folks that have been involved in making this space available, and all those involved in me being here. I'm very appreciative. So today's show is going to be about refuge and reflection. So I'm here at Knoll Farm for a retreat, a reflective retreat, an opportunity to engage deeply in a project of importance and value to myself, but also to have a moment for refuge, to reflect, to take some of the weight and the burden off of the day-to-day and connect with that, which is really important. Due to that, several things have moved through my mind from what I came here intending to work on to what I ended up working on to what I'm taking home with me. And so I'm going to try to move through some of those concepts and allow you to sort of reflect with me in this process. As if anything, I am not, I'm open in what I'm willing to share. So I applied and came to this place with the focus on, building on some of my writing projects that I have, some including this blog and associated with this podcast, but others a novel that I've written that I need to piece through and figure out what to do next with, and a work of reflection on my own process of transformation in the early stages of me getting the knowledge of myself, and what transpired there, what lessons I gained, and that's the theme of my week here. This is work that applies to what I do on a daily day, working with young men. This applies to what I do in terms of my general care, and as all things, if you've not heard it or not picked up before listening to any of my episodes, the maintenance of your own mind. Music is important to me, and a couple of things rung and registered with me as I've been doing the writing I've been doing this week, and the work I've been doing this week, and the time I've been taking this week. So I'm going to share that as a part of today's show. The intro to today's show, the opening track. I would like you to think of OC, the chosen one, right? So if you got a moment, pause this. Hopefully this is something that's already in your files, but if not, hit the internet, hit your streaming music service, give it a listen, then come back and join me, or listen through and then go back on your own time. And that song, the song that I enjoyed, but it really was ringing with me this week as I was reflecting on sort of where I was at in the time shortly before that song was produced, but in the same time window. And, the need for a space where one can take some of the weight off of themselves and just get to rest, right? And when I say rest, I mean being able to lay down, get some distance from the things that you struggle with, the things that you wrestle with, getting some time to heal if needed, getting some time to have some perspective on what your regular day-to-day life is like. I think it's vitally important for all people, and particularly in my target, in my interests in this work, and why I'm speaking on it as myself, in the development of yourself as a man. The reality of the weight and the challenge that, I think all people who are taking care of others or are trying to work, whether they're parents, whether they're just members of community, whether they're family in some other form, that weight when one is, motivated and is driving to be there for others, can lead to a reality of not being there for your own self, of not placing value on the regeneration and the rebuilding of the material and the energy that you have to use and expend in the process of serving others. But also there's an undergird. There's something under that, right? And that song, Shout to OC, resonated with me this week. And that's sort of for my own story, how I see myself. That, we always would say, or I guess we could say, yeah, as I was thinking about my man Abu Shahid, the chosen few choose themselves, you know what I'm saying? And when you in the bubble, you out here moving, you moving with righteousness and intention, positive intention, right? There's still a weight, there's still an energy that's required. And the reality of someone seeing you, acknowledging that you have been chosen in some way, you've been picked, you've been designated, turns and results in a reality or in a need then to meet that which you've been chosen to do. And the chosen choose themselves, right? You choose that fight. The fight may present itself, but then you choose to accept it, right? You choose to accept the work and the weight. You choose to accept the path. So if you have chosen to accept the path, sometimes along that we can operate in the misguided, pathology that if the path is rigorous, if the path wears us down, if the path is too challenging, that we can't seek help, that we can't seek rest, that we can't seek refuge in order to continue, traveling that path that we're on. And I think it's really important that, find your path, find your means to rebuild and to find refuge, find your means to heal, to recuperate from that which you're putting out. None of us get through this together, or rather on our own. We got to get through it with other people. A second song by OC from that same record, Tap was important, kind of closed the loop for me a little bit, and we're gonna have a midtro and an outro, so stay with me on this. But I was thinking about the chorus to Jules, right? And I'm a little, I'm going to read how I'm pretty sure what the lyrics say, stress, frust, make me want to bust, make me want to cuss. I lust for living a life of righteousness, but invisible forces stand in my way, keeping my mind off course, right? Think about that. The middle to me is the anchor, right? That I lust for living a life of righteousness. If you don't have a passion and the energy to be righteous, it's really hard to sustain it. Righteousness to me is the constant work of trying to move in the direction of right. Now for those acquainted will understand the science of love, feeling right. That and for me, the love, is the highest level of daily, day-to-day operational engagement with others. The hell is the experience of that being in discord and disarray, and the right is the effort to move towards the love, right? And righteousness is about that move towards the love, the move towards that higher level of engagement and that level of respect and compassion and empathy. And we could really want that, and stuff we don't understand at the time, forces that are not, the fulcrum is not close to us. We could miss the, what's happening, what's keeping in the way, getting your mind off course, right? So finding a way to keep your mind tuned in to what you need to sustain yourself, keep your mind progressing towards where you need to go. It's key. How you're going to do that, where you'll connect with those resources to make that happen, it's going to be on you to some degree. I have my personal sources, I have my pantheon, but also have a very intentional practice of finding new. Because life is not a stagnant, it's not a single point. We understand the world and sometimes want to squeeze the world into a single point. Shout out to you flat earthers. That's right, I'm not for it. I'm not here for it. Take that how you got to, right? But we are not in alone the center of the universe. However, you are the center of your own world, right? You must put in motion the idea, and I advocate is that I control that which I can control. So I turn to me first for change, and then I work to see where I can find that connection and those additional changes that exist outside of me. So, shift. So what I've been writing on this week is a memoir of sorts, and I'm not 100% sure which way I'm going to go with the overall work once I get there. But part of that, or a central part of that, is heartbreak, right? I think heartbreak is a real important thing for men within the way that we're socialized, because we're socialized, I think, to target in on, the real hyper aggressive stuff, like, they trying to emasculate us, or the challenge of this and that, or they trying to, we got to protect the families and we got to protect the babies. That's, all right, yes, 100% agree. Got to protect the children, got to protect our communities, most definitely. But heartbreak, that reality of having an expectation or a want or a desire and then not being fulfilled, is a driver that I see more often showing up in the behavior of people in general and men specifically, whether that's the heartbreak of, how one's been treated by those closest to them as far as, parents, whether that's the heartbreak of wanting something in terms of a relationship and not seeing that relationship materialize. If it's the ongoing heartbreak of constantly being disappointed when you really put in effort and energy, so you learn to numb and dull yourself. You learn to mask your true feelings and your true wants and needs within, a cloak of anger, a cloak of, lashing out, the extra machismo, trying to show off to others or show via other object, the objects you acquire, what have you, your value. Heartbreak to me is all tied up in there. That disappointment, that presence of mind, awareness that you should be, or that the potential for you to be something exists, but for whatever reason you are not, you're not getting there, and those invisible forces stand in your way, keeping your mind off course, right? So I've been digging into the pieces and parts of some of the things that were frustrations and heartbreaks for me, that then I endeavored to try to set up a structure, not that I could resolve all those things in a moment or instance, no, to set up a structure for myself as a younger man, so that I'd have at least a process to make right or to make better for my own self, and figure out how I can engage the world, in tune with my own culture, and in tune with what I thought was a more broad, universal understanding of righteousness. So that's the work. That's the general work in a nutshell. It's been challenging, and I'm pushing myself to write the hard details, write the broad story, and then I'm going to work backwards and try to narrow that. I may share some pieces and parts of that on the blog and writing. I may not. We'll see when we get there. It's going to be a longer process. I had the ambition when I took off to get here. I'm in Vermont. I've never been to Vermont. From where I live, which is in Oregon. I had the thought in my head, hubris, I was just going to get up every morning, bang out 2,000-3,000 words on each thing, and then roll, right? But as I started, rolling the thought around what is really my intention, what is my mission, what is it that I'm moving towards, I felt like I was shortchanging the thought, right? Sometimes you ever thought of the phrase "go big or go home," right? I need to go big. I got to pull out all the pieces and the details, write down the stuff that even, more than likely will never see the public eye. But it will be a part of my ability to find out what is that, those universal nuggets, or the nuggets I hope are transferable and usable to others. Live, learn, teach is my, my operational motto out here in the world. The Raji as itself, as it means, is, great guide and communicator. I put the great on there because I have to bear witness to the weight of my own expectations for myself. But to try to relate and share that which I've come to understand and hopefully get feedback so I can learn more. That's my process. That's the way I roll. So that's, where that work is going. And I've made some progress. I've got Not exactly sure how many. I got about 3,500 words down in one piece. But also the other side of the work I've been doing this week is been piecing through a short novel that I wrote a couple of years ago, and I haven't totally figured out what to do with next. But I just been walking through it, reading the story that I laid out, tightening up, the little pieces so that I can really start to get some feedback on it, and then deciding where I'm going to go with it. One thing I will say for sure, I am going to try to get it published before I just go the self-publishing route. And you may say, why? Well, go big or go home. Why do all this myself? I got a busy life. I got 2 kids, Earth. I got a community work, and I have a very demanding job that I'm building. It's a brand new thing. I don't need to be out here lying to myself about, my capacity to market, promote, and further, nothing wrong with editor. So, for those that just eschew the idea of the structure of learning, that there's any input to be gained by the apparatus around you or by the, the larger entity of writing, for me specifically, but the general concept of those who operate in the space of learning, that there is nothing there of value. I think that there is a value to sometimes going through the process, walking through the chambers that are involved and engaged with that, and then deciding, okay, it's not useful, it wasn't useful, or it wasn't, based on actual evidence of the experience. So I got to play that out. So I'm going to get it done, and then I'm going to start getting some feedback and move from there. Shift. So, but the value of personal reflection, where are your stories? That's been a theme this week, is what are the stories that you have to share? Or how comfortable are you with your story? Do you look at it? Do you listen to the narrative that you're telling yourself about where your world's going, what's happening with you, about what you're going to do or what you're not going to do, how you're just going to be? Being present and sitting in the life with others is, it's very important. I lust to live a life of righteousness. OC was on point with that one. Lust for living a life of righteousness. But you got to come to understand the forces around you that are challenging your ability to live and operate within the space that you see for yourself, right? So the midstream, call it the midtro. That's not really necessarily a term, but I'm about to make it work. For me this week, it's been New York state of mind. I'm tuning into a very specific time of my own life this week. Hence, the music, is reflecting that to a degree. At that time, as a young man, that particular song, and as I do, the way I engage with music, and especially hip hop, is, some things are a very literal story, right? But there are also things where, every literal detail of the story, I didn't grow up in New York, grew up in New Jersey. The great state of New Jersey, born and trained, raised in Willingboro. Shout out to the borough. That's where I'm from, right? However, the mind state that he articulates in there is one that I connect with. A frustration, an anger at times that is not totally clear. A sense of, if I go out, if I got to go to the wall, right? It could be bananas. I came to grips with that reality for myself as a young man. That if I had to go to the wall, it could be bananas. It could be, shooting up, not that I, thankfully, I didn't have regular access to weapons. But just the conceptualization of when you have a ball of anger and a reality and an understanding of a problem, meaning the systemic, nature that I saw, the things I saw around me, what was happening to me, what was happening to my peers, what was unclear to me that I had to piece together and make right for myself. That was the state of mind I was in. Anything could happen and any of this could go down and you could get it all. You get every piece of it. You get every 5, 5 Lucy and her 5 sisters, and her 10 cousins. That's the feat. I just came up with that one. You know what I'm saying? So I was moving through that chamber, in my thinking this week in terms of my writing, but also in terms of, sort of visioning what it means. I mean, I had a picture that I keep in one of my journals of me and some of my brothers at a young age moving with my man Abu Shahid, traveling the land. I think we were on our way to a parliament, more than likely. I want to say end of the year, up top, either that or Allah's Degree Day. These are things that are in baseball, in community conversation. For those outside the community, think about it going to be with those whom you practice your value system with. There was the health and the wealth and development that led me to the things that I have came to gain were due to the commitment to move, right? The commitment to do, not just to learn, but to do, right? That learning and doing are a part of a single thing. As I like to say, we're one thing. Some of our modeling, where we'll get into like the mind, body, and soul, and the pieces and the parts. If you deal with some of those I brought up, sort of the ancestral reality, the physical current reality, the mind, the spirit, whatever. These are all, to me, manifestations of process under which one goes to try to understand the whole. As an individual, in your own self-development, for me and for my purposes, from my experience, going too deep into one at the, avoidance of the others, doesn't tend to end well. It tends to make you more imbalanced. I feel like you got to sometimes not just talk about being, outside of your regular environment and or trying to get there via stimulants, right? So using substances to move the mind away from where you're at physically, instead of physically moving yourself somewhere else, wherever that may be. If that's going outside of your neighborhood, if that's getting out into the land somewhere, if that's getting into just another city, whatever it is, physically moving is important. Physically moving with other people is important. I brought up a story, bounced off me as I was adding on here around, what I learned about myself and about my brothers by traveling with them, right? By walking with them great distances, not walking with them short distances and around the block or around our apartment, but walking with them through the city, through chambers where we were both only had each other to depend on. Much was revealed. So I would pose to you is what has been revealed to you. And if you ain't moving with nobody, I know a lot of older men as men age sometimes, depending on, what happens to your homies and whatever have you, that, we don't have no partners no more, so to speak, or we brothers struggle to make friends in an odd sense. I'm going to encourage you, brother, you got to connect with somebody. All my 30 plus folks listening to this, usually that's not the jam. Nah, that could be it too. 30 plus folks, 40 plus, man, find somebody to kick it with. At least find brotherhood and fellowship somewhere. You need it. Can't do this shit alone. And you ain't the first one to fight a hard battle. So don't be puffing your ego up in that way. Learning from frustration is important. It was an important thing that I've been wrestling with this week. What do you learn from the tension that's created when you're frustrated, or when you're angry, or when you're dealing with an unfair circumstance, whether that's, close and personal, or whether that's in the deeper, more, broad world around you. Have you improved in the way that affects you? Do you just internalize it and let it eat at you? Do you lash out, at the ones you love, or lash out at those who are not necessarily deserving? Do you blame? Do you admonish your own self? You know what I'm saying? I lust for living a life of righteousness, but invisible forces stand in my way, keeping my mind off course. Can you get your mind on course? These are questions. I ask questions to push you to find the answers, and also to push myself to find answers. You know what I'm saying? That's how I've, whatever I've done to this point that has been going well, has been through a process of challenge, through a process of, like I said, doing, learning, doing, and then sharing, right? Nothing helps you with your mastery like trying to share something that means something, or something that you know how to do with somebody else. Because when you see their lack of understanding, or the points where they're not clear, you have to refine in your brain, has to to chew up and make sure you know what you're talking about, and you learn together. You don't do it alone. No great teacher thinks themselves, this master that must be bowed to and beckoned in order for others to learn. And no great student, doesn't hold their teacher accountable. To me, that's in a piece that I'm going to be working on, which I call on right now, at least for perspective thinking, the cycle of the old head. That one exists in the state and their place and time, and they have a feedback behind and in front. And by that, I mean chronologically above them, chronologically behind them, but also wherever they're at within their level of understanding on a particular issue or area, in cycle with others. And that's across, whatever lines it needs to cross. This is, some of the things that, I'm moving towards and working on. Again, I'm here in Vermont for the first time. It's a very beautiful state. I got some maple syrup-based products to take home. Send a couple postcards out, getting better at that. I want to share the little jewels that I got and pass a little love around. And ensure that I'm keeping my circle tight, keeping those whom I'm responsible for, responsible to, those that are going to look to me for love, that I got something to give them, and I look forward to getting home. The outro for today, outro music, it's my man Beanie Siegel, Broad Street Bully, Look at Me Now. That song to me has an energy just around triumph over your frustrations, triumph over your obstacles, raising above the circumstances that others may have assumed would make a certain thing out of you, and you finding a way to make something of yourself in your own image of righteousness and your own understanding of greatness. One is never a complete work as I see it. But to look at me now is like at this moment, in this time right now, look at me. And I'm going to keep moving and keep working. So my pose or my push to you is, when you ask people to look at you, you're asking them to look to see what is and all that will be, or you're looking to see what's there currently and to keep an eye for where you're going. Do you also reciprocate the reality of seeing people as they are and being present with them in the now and then being present with them again in the future? It's very important. So, yeah, man, it's been a very good week. I'm very thankful, again, to those that put this together. Thankful to have this opportunity. Thankful to my work also. This has been a really good, a lot of good stuff that's going to come out of this. I didn't even get into the stuff from my day-to-day work that's coming out of this experience and having this moment to reprocess and look through what we've been doing and how we've been doing it. But the greatness is always great there to come. The operation of showing one's ability to affect the environment is, to me, it's my understanding of how one sees God. I'm going to keep that going. So with that, I'm going to say peace. I'm going to say peace again because that's not the end of what I got to say. But, yeah, hit those points. The chosen one, the mid, the pre-mid, a little bit of that Jules. Nas, New York State of Mind, Beanie Siegel, Look at Me Now. That's the music for today. Get in tune with your story, man. If you got to write it down, you got to sing it. You got to just talk to, my extrovert, y'all might just want to talk to somebody. You might not want to be out here trying to spend time by yourself to write it. So find somebody that'll let you chew their ear off and get that out your head. Find some place for personal reflection. Find a place for yourself, a refuge, and ask yourself, can you provide refuge for someone else? Again, thank you to Knoll Farm, and I'm going to say peace. Peace. This is the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Raji. Travel safely. Peace.